Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Wrestle Watch podcast, your home for free agency talk and business talk, it seems, today in the world of professional wrestling. I am Ryan.
And I'm Doug on a lovely Monday. I'm finally free during the week. So
Yeah,
that's my favorite part about summer.
yeah, it's a big day, obviously. I mean, maybe, you know what? Raw is in Milan. You know what that means. It means that we might be going up against Raw during the show,
Oh,
you know.
this is true.
Are
Yeah,
we
I guess
counter programming?
that would start fairly soon, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So,
Well,
uh,
listen, there was so much counter programming in WWE upcoming that they were counter programming themselves with the counter programming.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so this week on Wrestle Watch, we're going to be chatting about New Japan's sale, Progress's sale, some counter programming going on in Mexico, and then we're going to look at two updates that we have to our free agency tracker. Where do you want to start this week?
um well, why don't we jump right into the I don't know, where are you feeling? I guess I don't have a strong
Well,
feeling one
you
way or another.
referenced the CMLL counter program thing with
Yeah.
TripleMania. So let's just chat about that quickly first off the top. Um yeah, so it was announced last night or 2 nights ago, was it that well they had the uh Noche de los Grandes at AAA, where it finally had the mask match between the original Grande Americano and El Grande Americano, or Chad Gable and Ludwig Kaiser. Um, they had their match. You had not seen that yet, correct?
I have not.
Okay.
I heard it was arguably the best WWE match in history.
Um, it was very good.
Okay.
Um, it was definitely a WWE main event. It started off with brawling to the outside of the ring, you know, and then it was just way too much of that. And then there are run-ins of people referenced from the story, so it's kind of bloodliney in a way. But once they got through all of the interference kind of spots and everything like that, it became like a very very good match. I think the ending was very good. Um, the speech that Chad Gable gave after the match was very good, and I think that it kind of put a bow on his angle of the Grande gimmick, where it's he recognizes that he was, like, in kayfabe, he recognizes he was wrong about lucha libre and that he's grown an appreciation of the culture. And so at least that is the end of the story. Um, whereas when it began, um, but yeah, so I thought the match was pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. And I will say this. I mean, for as you know, when you hear about this story on face value without like any additional context, this is, WWE American company coming in here and like having white people pretend to be Mexican wrestlers. You know, that's very that's a tightrope to walk. And by all accounts, uh this is a very, very popular storyline in Mexico.
Yeah.
And it got over, and it's something that genuinely worked. So who am I to say? I feel like it would be inappropriate at this time to me to have a have an opinion on this, a hot take on this. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm just gonna let it be what it is. I will watch the match.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this goes. But I could see myself enjoying it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the interference doesn't sound great, but I mean, if it's early on, I could probably let that slide.
Well, by early on, I mean it's a 30-minute match.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, early is relatively speaking. Um,
Yes.
uh, yeah, I think that, yeah, I think that it's interesting that the Chad Gable element of it started before WWE purchased AAA. That's the thing to
Mm-hmm.
remember here is that it was in January of last year that he started this angle. And they didn't announce the purchase until April. It's obviously possible that and likely that they had discussions about the purchase prior to then.
Like they knew it
Uh,
was coming.
Yeah, but I don't think that, and especially because like Kaiser's angle within it was like a replacement. It was supposed to just be a replacement. It wasn't supposed to get off, you know, it wasn't supposed to get over. Um so I think that they lucked into something like once Kaiser took to the gimmick and was serious about it. And I think that the absurdity of a German playing an American in a mask playing a Mexican helped it a little bit so that it got it's like became post ironic.
Little Tropic Thunder, little
Yeah.
Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
became something like post-ironic of like postmodernist kind of art where it's like, yeah, no, everybody is in on the fact that it's ridiculous, and that's what kind of gets it over more, and gets people on board of like legitimately like being into it. Um, but so I think it's important to give some of that context also for what we're going to discuss as a topic here, which is that Triple Mania is announced to take place. It's interesting because the way they phrased it was for the first time for a 2 night Triple Mania, which, as we know, of course, as people that have known that AAA existed before WWE purchased it, Triple Mania usually is like a 3 night event in 3 different cities.
Yes.
That's why it's called Triple Mania. It's 3 manias. And so them saying, "Oh, it's the first ever 2 night," I'm like, actually, that's cutting it back. Okay, but the interesting thing with this is that usually Triple Mania is done in August. This year it will
Yes.
not be. This year it will be taking place in September, around mid-September. Of course, every September is CMLL's anniversary show. So they have programmed now a weekend of WWE in Mexico City at CDMX Arena. It will be Friday night SmackDown. Sunday will be Triple Mania Night 2, because Night 1 of Triple Mania is going to be in Vegas on that Friday, which means that they've counter programmed themselves to counter program CMLL. And then Raw will be on Monday. CMLL's anniversary show is actually on the next Friday. So it's not a direct counter programming per se, but it is a direct competition. AAA, their weekly show is usually done on Saturday nights, whereas CMLL's premiere show every week is the Friday at Arena Mexico. Of course, they run every day of the week, a
Yes.
show, but the premiere show is on Fridays at Arena Mexico, which means that Triple Mania will be running at the same time as the go home um show for the anniversary of CMLL, if you will.
Yeah, and here's the thing with this. I actually don't. I mean, Lucha Blog has mentioned this too, and he talks about how, yeah, it's very clear that this is just a counter programming effort. But he's mentioned how different the AAA, especially the current AAA fan base is, and the CMLL fan base,
Yeah.
where, people make, they talk about the difference between AEW and WWE fans and how they're like watching different things. It's another level in Mexico because it's not like AAA has never been considered like traditional lucha libre,
Yeah.
like ever. It's always been kind of the renegade, hey, we're going to be more American style wrestling. And it was basically formed on that with that idea in mind to kind of be different from CMLL. And CMLL has always been, you know, for the most part, fairly traditional lucha libre. So there's really not as much crossover as people thinks. And also, let's be honest, so we've seen counter programming efforts against AEW by WWE for years now. And, for the most part, I think it's fair to say it hasn't seemed to be too effective. Um, a lot of times, obviously, it's hard to tell exactly, what the impact was, if there was any. But usually, when it happens, it's usually against a show that ends up doing very well business wise, AW wise, and they end up being creatively great. And then they end up getting compared to WWE, and it makes WWE, look bad. So that's been a consistent theme with the counter programming, is that WWE is putting themselves in a situation where they're going to get compared to the other show. And I don't know if that's necessarily what they want to do, but if they ended up having a really great show like they did with this AAA show where they had, a potential match of the year contender, that'd be great. The problem is they have and I would say that sometimes AEW does this as well with their follow-up dynamites to a really, really great pay-per-view. But this Clash in Italy show came right after
Yeah.
this big match, and a lot that basically changed the narrative because people were talking about this greatest match in WWE history, and now they're talking about this mediocre Clash in Italy show that just happened. So they kind of stepped on it there, and I feel like they have a consistent. They do that a lot.
Yeah, contextually, I mean, I will, put an asterisk on this a little bit, because essentially I find that Cage Match now leans a little bit with WWE fans, just because of a year or two ago when they discovered that Cage Match existed, they decided to what's the word? Not barricade. Uh,
Brigade.
Brigade, yes, thank you. Decided to brigade the site to the point where they've had to like amend the algorithm that is used to compute ratings and like all these other things that the webmaster has had to do on Cage Match because of the brigading of WWE fans. So, but that means that we can compare apples to apples of AAA show to WWE show, right?
Yes.
So the El Grande Americano match has a 9.54 currently on Cage Match after 583 votes. The show as a total only has 6 votes for the show's rating at a 7.86. Okay? Very interesting. How many? Oh, wait, excuse me. It's because it's split over 2 different entries for AAA for some reason. Yeah, so the match itself, 9.54. The show, 100 votes, 8.62 rating, okay? 9.54, 8.62. No match on Clash in Italy gets above a 6.6.
Mm-hmm.
And the show itself, same amount of reviews for the show itself, is at a 5. So I don't think that it's wrong to say that, and this might sound like I'm crafting a hot take, but I don't think it's a hot take to say this. AAA is booked far better under WWE than it was when it was independent. And I feel
that's a very low bar, but
yeah,
yes, I think that's not a hot take.
Yeah, it's not saying much because yes, I know that we both watched AAA for a little bit, especially during the AEW cross promotional time frame. I watched my fair share of TripleManias, and it was a struggle at times. Very overbooked, very carny. It felt
Heel
like
refs,
no
constant
like
interference.
yeah, it was like it was somebody who loves bloodline matches wet dream of a promotion.
Yes.
Like it's like you don't think, just watch. But that's the philosophy of what AAA was. So yeah, I think AAA is better today than it was when it was independent. I also think that it is the best booked brand in WWE's portfolio right now, which again is not saying much right now, but I think that is putting on the best product. I think that they're connecting very well to their audience. That's why I think that it is. And as you said, what Cubs fan Lucha Blog was saying is that, and I think Rob Viper said something similar to this as well, is that the fan base of AAA is very different from the fan base of CMLL, and the fan base of WWE and AEW. There's not as much overlap between the fan bases of AAA and CMLL in Mexico as there is between WWE and AEW in the world, I would say.
Yeah.
So AAA doing well doesn't mean that CMLL will do worse. I think that for these September shows, I think that and I've seen people like Dave Meltzer say this as well, and I think that he's in touch enough with Mexican wrestling. He's not. I don't think that he's an expert like those other names are, but I think he's in touch enough to say this and be confident about it. Anniversary show is going to sell out.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
going to be fine. It is on a Friday on its own. It's not getting counter programmed directly. Now is it possible that people are going to exhaust their money on the previous week of WWE and maybe, yeah, maybe, but like CMLL and Arena Medco, it's pretty cheap of a ticket already. Um, it's likely that the SmackDown will sell fine and the TripleMania show will sell fine, but then the Raw might just like exhaust the audience by that point. The other problem, of course, is that the AAA first night of TripleMania is happening in Vegas on the Friday. I guess like the time will be like directly after SmackDown, like for broadcast reasons. But that means that you're going to be having you're competing with your own market in Mexico. You have these people that
Yeah.
you're going to try to get to come out to SmackDown to buy a ticket to come to SmackDown, and then say, "Oh yeah, can you I guess put on your phone and watch AAA while you're here?" Still, like, eh,
It's not
it's
not
not the
ideal.
smartest. It's not ideal. I think that they should have, put done another pass on that booking strategy. I do think that it's likely that we'll see some big name AEW stars that are over in Mexico get announced for Aniversario. We'll probably see the seeds of that laid. I believe that it's been announced now. It was announced on Spanish commentary on AEW's programming that um, Grand Slam Mexico will be happening in August this year. A date has not been announced yet, but it will be in August. I
It's
think
looking like
that's
August 5th
probably
is what
yes.
they're kind of speculating.
So I think that is highly likely that that will be kind of like a road to anniversario kind of moment. Like you'll get like what last year was, where you had MJF and Mystico have a match on that show, and then that set up a rematch at anniversario. I think that that is likely to happen as the way that they book it. I think a name like MJF makes sense to book again. He has great heat in Mexico. Um, so I think that's likely, but I don't think that CMLL has to be
Maybe
worried.
Hangman will be back by then.
Could be. I think that like yeah, they have a cadre of very over names from AEW that they could book for AAA's anniversary show, but I don't think that they need to worry.
No, no, they're and that's the thing that it's in Arena Mexico for the most part, and for these a lot of their shows, and they're gonna sell them out. They were come close to it anyway. They've been doing
Yeah.
great business for the last year. Um, I
They-
think the momentum is there, and frankly, what we've seen, and I don't know if it's going to carry over in Mexico in the same way, but we've seen for years now that whenever WWE counter programs AEW, that just puts a spotlight on whatever AEW is doing, and a lot of times we see a boost in ticket sales because people are interested in this kind of this war that's going on between the two.
yeah.
And that I think it ends up helping the one who's being counter programmed. So I think at least in this day and age, when we're talking about two similar companies in size, not necessarily smaller company, like massively smaller companies. And I say similar in size because, you know, I think that CMLL and AEW and WWE, I would call them all just major league promotions. This isn't like WWE like counter programming like some indie.
Yeah.
So because of that, I think that it has less impact. And frankly, I think just the fact that we are growing up in the shadow of the Monday Night Wars, I think a lot of people still have that mindset, and because of that, they like being a part of that war or being a part of a war. So whenever that is something that happens, they're suddenly into this idea of, oh, we're not gonna go with the underdog and compete. So I think that's why counter programming in general doesn't work today.
Yeah. How about we transition to one of the sales that happened this past week. Let's start with the one that is related to CML, I suppose, which is New Japan's sale.
Mhm.
This is a deal that is going to close at the end of June. Bushiroad is the has been the 70% owner of New Japan with TVSI having around 22% of New Japan's ownership. There's another like 7% there that is just minority owner stakes. So up until now, the structure has been that Bushiroad operates New Japan, and TVSI has a stake in it. And they essentially they own the rights to all of the broadcast of New Japan. So Bushiroad didn't, and New Japan didn't actually own the rights to their own tapes. TVSI did. Um,
Mhm.
and TVSI ran New Japan World, the streaming service. Um, which now what is going to happen is that 70% that Bushiroad owned is getting bought by a deal of TVSI and CyberAgent. TVSI and CyberAgent will each own around 46% of New Japan in the future, but the way that'll be structured is that TVSI will be operating New Japan as a subsidiary, just like Bushiroad was. And CyberAgent will just be an investor, so to speak, in New Japan. The idea from what the press release said is that Bushiroad didn't feel like that they could capitalize on New Japan and have it further grow. So they felt like the best thing to do was to sell it to essentially to broadcasters. Um, so TVSI has the broadcast deal for their TV, and they own the rights to their video library. So it makes sense for TVSI to go all in on it, so to speak. And then CyberAgent is very well known for their streaming platforms, such as Abima, which up until now had been having WWE on it, but WWE will be moving to Netflix in Japan coming up. They also have Wrestle Universe because they own Cyberfight, which is Noah, DDT, and Tokyo Joshi Pro. Um, because of the way that this deal is structured, CyberAgent, the larger conglomerate, will be having a stake in New Japan, not Cyberfight. New Japan will not be a sister promotion to those other promotions, and CyberAgent will have no hand in the actual running of New Japan. It was mentioned by Toru Okada, the president of Stardom, who is also an employee of New Japan, that the way that this will work is for belts like the IWGP Women's Title is that they'll still be competed for in Stardom. Stardom is still a sister promotion to New Japan by the way that they view it. I mean, TVSI still, I believe, might still own a stake. No, 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 no. It's just going to be Bushiroad fully owned Stardom. Excuse me, I believe. Um, so, um, yeah, Stardom will still have a relationship with New Japan. But yeah, Toru Okada said essentially now there will be the ability for other promotions' talent to compete for those belts, as in making a reference to Tokyo Joe Pro, essentially. Um,
And New Japan at one point owned stake in Stardom, and that has slowly been sold off as well.
yeah, so the way that it was structured around 2 years ago, um, Bushiroad gave all of the shares of Stardom to New Japan, which was a subsidiary company that they own 70% of. Yes. This past month, New Japan gave back all the shares to Bushiroad. So
Mhm.
Stardom is owned only by Bushiroad now.
Yep.
The thing to note with all of this, I think, is well, let me get your thoughts on just that part.
So I think the first thing that comes to mind when I take a look at the fact that Bushiroad sold New Japan, I think that this is I mean, I think you need to start by looking at when Bushiroad bought them. And, that would have been over 10 years ago, I would say at this point, or close to it. And at that point, that was before we saw, the rise of the elite. We saw it might have been before
Yeah,
Okada.
they purchased it in 2012.
Yeah. So they purchased it right before Okada really took off. So, and then we saw the great business that New Japan did all through the 2010s, pretty much all the way through COVID. And it still survived COVID for the most part. But the idea that we've taken a look at a business from a, buy it low, build it up, and then sell. It makes all the sense in the world for Bushiroad to do this. Like like just as a normal, business investment. You bought a business, you built it up, and then you sell it for a profit.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. And then a lot of people are looking at them retaining Stardom and thinking like, well, that's because they see Stardom as the stronger product long term. And I think it's more along the lines of they see Stardom as a product that they haven't necessarily experienced that, that topping out that they maybe feel that they've experienced with New Japan.
Yeah.
They think Stardom still can go a bit more. They think there's more growth that they could, you know, benefit from with Stardom. They could see it grow a bit more. So it makes sense that they would retain that. And to me, this is just a straightforward business move. I really don't think we're going to see a whole lot of major implications in terms of creative or booking or partner promotions. Basically, what they said. I believe everything they said. I don't think there's going to be any major differences on the show itself. I think broadcast wise there could be some differences, obviously,
Yeah.
but and then obviously there could be maybe a little bit stuff with like, hey, we might see more, maybe they're not going to be as tight knit with Stardom. That maybe they will allow, as you say, some Tokyo Joshi Pro talent and things like that, just because they're not necessarily, tied at the hip like Stardom in New Japan was before. But I still think that for the most part, it's going to be business as usual. I think now it's just they're going to be they're sold to be, this is what they are. They're not going to, maybe they don't necessarily see them growing anymore, but they're a strong product. I mean, take a look at what, the new Wrestle Kingdom did this year on TV
Yeah.
in Japan. It was massive numbers. It sold massive tickets. They still have Aaron Wolf. Now, your mileage may vary on how well you think they're using Aaron Wolf, but he's still a major star, and I think there's still something there. And I think I understand why the broadcast company might just be like, I'll just buy this company and we'll just do this ourselves. I think it makes sense. I
Yeah.
think everything makes sense. And there's nothing that's making me raise my eye with anything with this sale.
Yeah. Let me to get to the idea about what Bushiroad did with New Japan and why they might be wanting to continue to own Stardom. They're the Bushiroad as a business is mostly in the trading card games, and they
Hmm.
have some interest in things related to like idols, and so they're mostly a trading card company. They do live events that are related to trading card games. They have some idol business that they do as well. Um, so they're kind of in the live event space in that meaning, not as much. And like the live event space for them is a um like an arm of what they're trying to sell, which is the trading cards essentially, and anime and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
so when you look at what they did with with New Japan as a business model, they wanted to focus on the in-person experiences. So they had a business model that was based off of ticket sales and in-person merch sales.
Yep.
That was how they grew the company up. If you look at after they purchased it in 2012, through to the pandemic, or essentially through to AEW's beginning. Let's use that as the
I think
marker.
that's a good measurement.
The
Yeah.
way that they built up the business was thinking about it in that term, because they didn't capitalize on the possible value for broadcast. They got no deal in America beyond access TV. Okay? Like they didn't have a broadcaster in Europe. They didn't have a broadcaster in the UK. And that was the period when people think that New Japan hit its height as a company, both financially and of like general knowledge of the company, product, all those kinds of things. Every kind of measure, most people would say that's the height of New Japan, right?
And that was when they were also increasing ticket sales pretty steadily that entire time period.
Yes, that was when they did MSG, for example. You know, they did a show at Madison Square Garden. The Tokyo Dome kept on getting bigger and bigger. They didn't sell out, but it kept on growing year over year for the Tokyo Dome show. They started doing 2 nights at the Tokyo Dome. You know,
Mhm.
so the business was getting bigger, but the thing was that because of Bushiroad's model as a business, they didn't care about the broadcast rights. So that's where TVSI built New Japan World, because that
Not
was them trying to capitalize on something that they knew and knew would bring more value to the company and build the
yeah.
company.
And not
So
only that, they felt that the broadcast rights were a massive bubble, and they
yes,
were trying to insulate themselves for when it burst, and it just never burst.
yeah, that's what Bushiroad felt. Yes.
Yeah.
So they felt that WWE and UFC, which are the only games in town in combat sports, that it was just going to burst, and it never did. In fact, what happened was that in reality, there was a space for another wrestling promotion to get those broadcast rights, and it happened to be AEW that did it. Um, so when you look post pandemic, then the pandemic really screwed up New Japan's business model then. Because if their
Mhm.
entire business model by Bushiroad was we're going to try to capitalize on ticket sales, and there are no tickets to sell, then you're kind of screwed as a
Yeah.
business. And they never really fully recovered. I mean, only this past year they pulled a $1 million profit as a company, which is fine, but it's not growth. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's not. It doesn't have potential to grow. So Bushiroad's stated goal then by selling is trying to get it into the hands of people that are going to grow it internationally and know how to deal with the broadcast rates, essentially, to get most value out of the company. So TVSI's angle with this will be: we own the broadcast rights already, we own the video library. Let's capitalize on the video library that we have. So I think that a possible thing that could change is maybe you will have. Right now, they have a weekly clip show essentially of New Japan. It's like the highlights of the week. It's possible that they might move to create a actual weekly series for it, or try to. The other angle is Abima will likely have New Japan on that service, rather than having New Japan World in Japan proper. I don't think that it's going to join Wrestle Universe, because right now they're able to get people to spend 900 yen a month on the service. So like, why would you screw up that model?
No,
You're
yeah,
getting like $10 a month from people.
it's very similar to the Hulu model where it's like, yeah, they didn't know what to do with it exactly because they didn't want to just like get rid of it because they had all these subscriptions on there.
Oh, you're
But
speaking
it's
of
also,
Disney. Yeah.
yeah, with when Disney bought it. So it was similar to that. Eventually they figured it out, but this is different in the sense that, Wrestle like unlike Hulu or Disney Plus, New Japan World, it doesn't really have a lot of overhead and it's actually fairly profitable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it makes sense to just kind of keep it.
Yeah, now it is possible that I think if they're looking at like global expansion for the product, I think it's possible that they might look at trying to sell. Like, think about how WWE, when they had the network, that originally the way that they phrased it was like selling the network. So like in another territory, you might have it where like the U.S., for example, they sold the network to Peacock. So Peacock licensed all the WWE library, and now they've sold the network to Netflix. Um, and I think that it's possible that New Japan could look at that as their new owners, I mean, might look at that as a possible way to, capitalize on their money. Is okay, so we're gonna have New Japan World, and it's gonna be available in all markets. Although we could sell the rights to it in the U.S. to AEW or to Netflix or somebody, like
Yeah.
that could be a possibility. To say that they could, they looking at what their current subscriber base is and saying, well, we could get this much money direct from our subscribers, or we could sell the rights in the US to AEW, or do some other kind of business model in those territories. I think that that's possible. That's a possible change. I think that that's kind of like the extent of it. It's possible also that TVSI, being the broadcaster, might be a little bit more hands-on with the management of New Japan.
Mhm.
Whereas like Bushiroad, again, their business model was we just care about the live events, so they were pretty hands off about the management of New Japan. I think that that's the only other change that I could see. I don't see. I mean, with the partnerships, they already have a partnership with the biggest promotion in Mexico. They have a partnership with the second biggest promotion in the U.S. and Canada. They have a partnership with the largest independent British promotion in the UK. They have a partnership with Maple Leaf Pro, with MLW. It's like okay, so you already have all these partnerships internationally. It's not like you can really grow more from changing your partnership strategy anyway. So I don't see any change to the partnerships making any sense right now for New Japan anyway. And for that matter, it's like nothing that they've said has indicated that they're going to change anything regarding the partnerships or just like the running of the company in general. It just sounds like they're just going to try to change the strategy about broadcast rights.
Yeah. And that's ultimately what I was getting at too, is that I don't think we're going to see any, massive on-screen changes. I think it's all going to be just behind the scenes. And that might mean that we might see New Japan. Maybe they are going to try to like actually get some broadcast rights locally in the United States.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to try to put together some type of uh, localized content, whatever that may be. I don't know how well that would work. I mean, I don't know what it would look. I could see it happening. I said for a while, I think Stardom, if they really wanted to, they could. There's probably a niche there for a weekly Stardom English language based show. And is this and as you kind of alluded to, at one point there probably was that for New Japan. Is there still now? I don't know. But I think that's probably something that they're definitely exploring.
Yeah. And how about we transition to another sale of a promotion now that just happened? The other one, which I believe actually happened before Bushiroad sale, was Progress Wrestling. Was sold to Big Damo and Nikki Cross, or Nikki Storm, as now she's going by. I think this kind of maybe tells us what's going to happen with Nikki going forward. For the free agency tracker is she's going to be busy running Progress probably. The Progress was bought by two lovely men in the UK. Back, I'm trying to remember the year that it was sold. 2022, I think it was. Yeah, it was 2022 to Lee McAtter and Martin Best. That was after the speaking out things and the issues with the previous ownership and XYZ, you know.
Right, right.
Um, they then purchased Defy at that time as well, in 2024, I should say, 2 years later, trying to increase their global presence of the brand. They had a partnership with Noah at a point, so they've been having Noah talent come over to the UK to do excursions. Um, that's been kind of what Progress's motto has been recently. They've also kind of wanted to push talent who they think might get signed by WWE. But now Big Damo, who has been appearing in Progress for some time now, after his leaving of WWE in 2021, and his wife Nikki Storm, Nikki Cross, purchased the company. All word that I hear internally from Progress people is that this is a very positive thing. They think that they have a lot of potential with their connections in the wrestling industry, to get more cross promotional opportunities, and expand the brand and keep an eye a little bit closer, but also be aligned with where the booking team wanted to go. Is
Yeah, it
kind
all
of the
sounds
general
good.
vibe that I have.
It all sounds, I've heard nothing but positive things, which is very different from what I've heard in the past.
Yeah, I think that most
I think we'll
people.
just leave it. I think I don't have much more to add to it than that, but it's like it does, because I remember when, Progress essentially became a WWE feeder,
Yeah.
and people just, it was a lot of like, well, here we go, this is the end, and I'm not getting that vibe at all. It does feel like, in a lot of ways, maybe I don't want to say a revival, but it definitely feels like, you know, it's a clean slate. Maybe that's the way to describe it.
Yeah, and I think that like people are looking forward to like working with, it's like wrestlers working with wrestlers, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So I think that it's just a positive overall. Um, and then how about we go back to Japan for a second?
Sure.
Because we're gonna look at our updated free agency tracker. I'm gonna put on screen right now for people to look at. Yay, it's different. It's minorly different. There's two names that have moved, and we're going to start with talking about Utami Hayashishita. She reappeared Stardom. She finished up her dates with Marigold. Her two last appearances. Last one was a tag match. Her second to last appearance was her having a 1 minute match with the entire roster, gauntlet style. Every match went to a draw except for one she
Except
lost.
for Sari Yamaoka. She
Yep.
lost to Sari.
Yep.
Which, once again, I get it. You got to push Sari.
But it feels kind of like, okay, so I think that says a lot of how Rossi was feeling about her.
Yes.
She couldn't go over anybody, and somebody had to go over her.
Have you read Rossi's like quotes and comments? I know they're obviously things could be lost in translation or things could be, but it sounds very like passive aggressive. I'm not mad. Don't write that I'm mad kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And which I get. I mean, this might be. I think it's fair to say Marigold is not going exactly the way he envisioned it was going to go.
Yeah, I think that they have they got like I would say three larger names. Let me just phrase it in that kind of generalized sense that they got from Stardom, or four. Let's say four. So yeah, Julia,
Yes.
who then immediate left.
Yes. Which I think that I think they knew that going in.
Yeah.
So I'll give them that one.
So that one's okay. That one's fine.
Yeah.
They got Utami, who it seems that I would say they pushed initially and then decided once they got Mayu, they didn't care about her anymore.
Yeah. Utami was going to be I felt like they were going to build the company around her.
Yeah, she felt like that she was going to be the ace because, oh yeah, well, they didn't get Mayu. So, if they don't get her, they need an ace, and the ace should be Utami then. Didn't really. And then Mirai is the other bigger name. And I'm phrasing that generally because I think that all the other names that left from Stardom were not as big as her, even.
No. Yeah, I agree.
And she's gone.
She's a different tier. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a different tier, but she's gone too.
Yeah,
so
also gone.
They only have Mayu that's a big name from Stardom. She didn't even start until last year with Marigold. And that's it. That's their draw. And Marigold, this was something that you referenced to me. Every month on the Squared Circle subreddit, a user will do a ticket sales report from Japan every single month. They looked at the year to date also from January through May, and looked at year to year, and looking at the averages year to year. Marigold is slightly up. They're getting around 500 fans per show, but that means that they're at exactly like the same level that Tokyo Joshi Pro is right now, or like Oz is at right now, or Dragon Gate is. So there's like a level above them, which is your Stardom, Noah, or All Japan kind of promotion, and then a level above that is New Japan, which of course, mind you, that New Japan, they're averaging higher than everybody else, but keep in mind that their average is including Tokyo Dome. But yeah, Marigold is not anywhere as big as I think Rossi thought it would be, and Stardom has had incredible growth without him.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
And now Utami is going back to Stardom, or is she? Because that's the question that we have to ask ourselves. Is there have been comments from Toru Okada and from Utami saying, she hasn't signed to Stardom. I believe that's Dave Meltzer reported that she's going to be regularly scheduled on the tour coming up for Stardom. Do you think that it's a kayfabe covering? That she's gonna have a story of like earning her spot back in Stardom after she left like she did, or do you think that like she legitimately is freelancing?
Well, I'll take it a step further. Forget, is it a legitimate covering that she's got to earn her place back? Does she genuinely need to earn her place back? Like, I don't know. Is there some? I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about this. I mean, is there bad blood there? I mean, she left.
Yeah.
And now she's like, come crawling back. I mean, is she necessarily welcomed with open arms?
Well,
Is everybody in that company happy to have her back? I don't know.
I would point out that she immediately went back. Like that was
Yeah.
the first thing she did after she left Marigold was show up and start like she's saying all the stuff when she's leaving Marigold of like, oh yeah, no, I wanna bring my talents elsewhere and like, develop what I can be and like, freelance and all this stuff. And then the first thing that she does is go to Stardom,
Yeah.
which I feel like says a lot.
It does. And I would imagine that if she and I said this before, I thought like on a previous episode when we were talking about her, I thought that she was gonna freelance. I thought
Mhm.
this was gonna be, oh, we're gonna have she's gonna be doing her own little produce shows and things like that. She's gonna try to do her own thing. And I thought that's what we were getting.
Yeah.
The fact that she did go right back to Stardom makes me think otherwise. But I think of Katsuyori Shibata. Are you aware of like when he left New Japan the first time?
If you want to go in depth about.
Sure. So Shibata was originally brought into New Japan as one of like the Three Musketeers,
Hmm.
and they were gonna push him. He was gonna get, and then this was at this time when New Japan was really not doing good, really, really in the dumps, and also when like MMA in general was on the rise in Japan. They had like Pride and uh all these different promotions that were like we're seeing the blend. That's when you saw Nokiism on the rise, where they had like the mixing of the New Japan of the pro wrestling and MMA and blurring the lines. And what we ended up seeing was he eventually left.
Hmm.
He went and did MMA for a little while, but he was out. And when he eventually did come back to the company, there was a lot of people that didn't want him to be there. There was a lot of bad blood, including with Tanahashi. When he was on the rise and he was doing everything in New Japan, early on, I would say in Okada's reign, like from like 2012 to like 2015 when he actually had his Okada match. That whole time frame that he was with the company and people were like watching him rise up, in having great matches in the G1 with Ishii and stuff. He was not on a contract.
Hmm.
He was they had no contract. He was just working. And because they wouldn't give him a contract right away because there was still a lot of bad blood. And eventually that ended up changing. He started to get a massive push, and then obviously had his head injury. So I don't necessarily think that the Utami situation could be any different, because I will say this: Shibata went straight back to New Japan. He didn't really freelance after that.
Yeah.
He was that whole time in 2012 to 2015. I think that was the time frame, but I don't think he worked anywhere else. I think he was just working New Japan as a freelancer, and that was it. Trying to kind of, you know, maybe make amends or get that goodwill back. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, that's exactly what's happening with Utami, but I mean, history shows that that could be what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's interesting also to see. She took like a freelance gig right before, like right between her the Utami Gauntlet match, which I've been
Mhm.
corrected on. She did win two of those matches. It was versus the Lady Owl, who doesn't even have a profile on Cage Match. I got to tell you, and
Okay.
then Megaton, who has never won a match. It's like the gimmick is that she doesn't
Yeah.
win. So, eh. Uh,
All right.
uh,
Good.
but I will point out
Way
that
to protect her.
in between she did do a tag with on an independent show with Tagumi Iroha and
Yes.
against Chi Chi, and those names are of course in the Saria orbit.
Yes.
Those are like the Sari squatters. I think that was what I thought was going to happen with her when she left Marigold, was maybe like you were kind of referencing, maybe she would freelance in the Sari orbit. She'd go to Marvelous, she'd go to Sendai, she'd do Suriism shows, that kind of thing. It looks like that she might do that on top of just working Stardom. Um, yeah,
But and it also could be
because
her
Stardom's happy with
following.
them. Stardom's happy to work with that group of people.
Yeah, and it could be just she is following the Suri model, because Suri obviously put down roots in a couple companies
Yeah.
for a time period. Like she put down roots in Marigold for like a year.
Yeah, they had a good match together. I think it was like almost it was January 2025. They had a match
Yeah.
against each other for the title in Marigold,
Yeah.
and now they're both gone.
Yeah. And then once again, another one that the company was built around that is no longer there.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird with Sari because it was like she was always a freelancer from day one of her being there, and then they put the belt on her, and then she never signed with them.
Right.
Like it's the craziest thing to do. I think that like it's different than what like Stardom did, where they put the IWGP belt on Sari, where it's like, okay, that's a world title, but it's not the world title. That's the World Heavyweight Championship. It's not the WWE Championship.
It is weird to. I mean, I guess. I mean, what would the alternative be? I mean, I guess maybe you put it on Julia for a little while.
I mean, it should have just been on Julia to begin with. Yeah, like they
Yeah.
they wanted to shock people by having Julia lose that match. I get that, but like it's kind of like what's going on right now in TNA with Leon Slater is a great example, great counter, where allegedly right now there are rumors that Leon is talking with AEW as well, for when his contract runs out. His contract is due to be over by the end of the year. And the going rumor was that he was going to end up with WWE. Right now, it's TNA sources are saying that they're thinking about taking the X Division title off of him early, because they don't want him to break the record for the longest X Division reign. Even though the that record is held by Austin Aries, they don't want him to break the record because they don't think that he's going to stick around with the company. So they don't want that record on somebody that's not going to stick around.
Yeah, and I think we both agree, and maybe I'm going to take a guess that if he were going to go to WWE and it was kind of a foregone conclusion, I don't think they would have necessarily cared. And then maybe they would keep the title on him.
I think not necessarily, but I think it could also be telling of how they feel that relationship has been going this year so far. Is maybe they're looking at it being like, wow, we're gonna look like chumps if like the guy that like we've like made the cornerstone of like the undercard essentially just never has a world title reign here. Like that is like if they didn't have a relationship with WWE, Leon Slater should be their world champion within a year. But that's not what's gonna happen. Right?
No.
Like the ready-made story is he breaks the record and then he says it's time to cash in option C. Like that's what should happen, right?
Right.
And it's not going to happen because they're not going to let him break the record, and he's never going to be world champion there. Like because they know he's going to leave. So it's I mean like sure it could be because they are not sure if he's going to end up in WWE, but I think that they also are looking at the fact that like they never got an AJ Styles match. When he was retiring, they wouldn't let AJ wrestle in TNA. They're teasing out this thing with maybe Bayley will wrestle in TNA, but like teasing it out.
Yeah. And that's I guess that's my point though, is like
maybe they realize that they're getting
they still
duped.
have this. They still have I don't know. That's what I mean. They still have this relationship. I mean, I haven't necessarily seen any signs yet that they're like, this is stupid and then we should cut bait on this WWE deal. And frankly, I mean, I don't think, okay, I think TNA, if they're really going to operate on this idea that we're not going to put the world title on anyone that's potentially going to leave, I mean, who are they going to put the world title on then? It's like
Eddie Edwards.
Yeah.
Moose.
Or like bring in like, yeah, they're going to, or bring in like Aleister Black.
Yeah, because he can't go anywhere else.
Yeah. But even he, as soon as he might go back to WWE the second he can.
Yeah.
So that's so it's like they can't really operate that way in this environment.
Yeah. And then how about we have one last name to look at that is an update on our tracker. He is now all the way up in certain. He was previously unlikely. It's Mance Warner, of all people. Recently, he's been appearing on Ring of Honor, kind of associated with Eddie Kingston and Ortiz. They came out during the pre-show as a unit of Double or Nothing, And recently on Ring of Honor TV, he said that, Ring of Honor is his home. Um, haven't had any announcement of a contract for him, though. But I think it's pretty safe to say that he's likely, certainly signing there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And
They tried him out.
I think the important thing is, first of all, this is not like the first time he's been in the AEW universe. He has been booked on Rampage in the past. I think he had a match against Mox, if I'm not mistaken, on
I believe
Rampage.
he did, yes.
Yeah, and that would have been like early Rampage. This would have been, 20, maybe 2021 even, if I'm remembering correctly. But
It was 2022. He had an eliminator match for the interim world title, and it lasted 11 and a half minutes.
okay, good job, Mance. Um, so I think that it's probably fair to say that if he's the way he's operated with this one, because obviously, I think if anyone's been following anything with Mance lately, he was booked in AAW, which is a Chicago indie promotion. Um, and then they said that he can't work it because, AEW requested that he not be there. And AEW came out and said, we never said that. He can work your show. Because, it definitely got the impression that maybe like Mance said that he didn't want to be at the show because he was worried that he wasn't going to make Double or Nothing.
Yeah, the phrasing that then when Matt said it was that he essentially they couldn't agree on a rate, and he was worried about not getting paid, so he
Yeah.
just said, "I got something else."
Which I don't buy because obviously he's worked AAW for I don't know how many times. It's like the idea that he's constantly negotiating his rate with them. I mean, I have to look. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know, but it seems to me that he just didn't want to risk not making Double or Nothing,
Yeah,
and he just
well,
try to get out of the
I
booking.
mean, he hasn't worked AEW since 2023.
Yes, that's fair. So it could be that, hey, you needed to renegotiate up my deal. And that's
Yeah,
possible.
I
And
haven't worked for you 3 years. There's my rate, and then they didn't want
yeah,
to pay that new rate.
yeah. And man, listen, he's a fun character. He's a solid worker. A little fun brawler. I get it with him. He's kind of in the same vein of a Briscoe.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
think he'll
it makes sense that his matches that we've seen on AEW Ring of Honor programming, where your aforementioned work with John Moxley, and then
Mhm.
recently he's done a match with Shane. He's worked with Shane Taylor Promotions, tagged with Eddie Kingston Ortiz, did a Proving Ground match against Lee Moriarty. There's a theme, I think, a
Yeah,
style. Like obviously
yeah,
they're feuding, as Eddie Kingston and Shane Taylor, but it's like there's a style and a theme that's a connective thread through all those people.
yeah. And I think that he feels like a Ring of Honor guy.
Yeah,
So the fact that he's like, hey, Ring of Honor is my home, or calling it home at this point, that to me tells me that he is probably signed. And I think it's a good spot for him because I don't necessarily think he's someone I don't see a spot for him on AEW proper, but I absolutely see a spot for him on Ring of Honor.
yeah, and I think also it's interesting that like he left TNA. He made the choice to leave TNA. Him and Steph Delander both chose to leave TNA, knowing what they were going to get booked on. Essentially, I think Steph
Mhm.
is doing a lot of indie circuit stuff, and it seems like she's going to make more money doing that. Um, I think she had a trip to the UK even recently. Mance seems he thought that he was going to get booked by Ring of Honor, and he did a tryout essentially match in April with Shane Taylor. It looks like Eddie Kingston vouched for him, and all the people that were working with him vouched for him, probably Mox too, and he's luckily getting signed. And I think that like that shows you number one, um, what he thinks he's worth, and also to how much doing this kind of Ring of Honor work is compared to TNA's pay.
Mhm.
I think that says a lot for both of those things. Yeah, so currently that is what our tracker looks like. It has not changed much this month. I just wanted to go over the things that did change during this month since we had our big vote at the beginning of the month. the things that were added, we had Jeff Cobb, Tonga Loa, and the New Day added to our tracker. Jeff Cobb at probable, Tonga Loa toss up, New Day as likely, and then recently we just moved Mance Warner, upgraded him from unlikely to certain, and Utami Hayashishita was upgraded from probable to likely. We're going to do a full tracker review this coming week, so be on the lookout to see what gets changed this coming week. I don't think there's a lot of people that stock has necessarily gone up in the past month of their likelihood of signing to a new promotion. But I
don't
think
so either.
Yeah, I feel like up and likely right now we have like Kyrie and like Motor City Machine Guns to the New Day. I think that those all seem still rare about it is because their 90 days are not going to be up yet, most likely. I know that we had Alba Fire, the former Kylie Ray, is now where she's going by again. She's a toss up. That's another one that I don't think has really heated up, but it seems that she is likely to be getting out of her deal sooner rather than later. It seems that she might be a surprise appearance for Eve coming up.
Yeah, that silhouette on there looks very, very similar to her. So I think, that seems to be what's going to happen. And she feels like someone that's probably going to bounce around and freelance for a bit. If I'm AEW, she's one of the few people on that release list that I would probably sign immediately. And I mentioned that the last time we talked about her.
Yeah.
But she's also feels like someone that I could see her being someone who isn't necessarily in a hurry to go to AEW.
Yeah. Yeah. And for that matter, also in toss up is Nikki Cross, who we had some news about this week, where she purchased an entire promotion.
Yes.
So I mean, Big Damo was signed to MLW. And maybe that's one of the things that they're thinking about when they're saying, there's a lot of opportunities for, international opportunities with Progress with the new purchase. Maybe he'll be able to leverage MLW's roster and their connections to like CMLL, in the UK. Of course, CMLL does have a deal with RevPro though. And then, looking at the rest of our tracker here, I mean, I would say the only other name that's really interesting right now to me is Sari will be, coming to America in a week or two, to do work with AEW finally.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
I think that I don't think that you did an Owen pick'em bracket with us, but what do you how far do you see Sari going in the tournament?
I kind of think she's gonna go to the end.
You think that she'll beat Athena?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
because who do you think is winning this thing? Let me pull up the bracket.
The bracket right now is we have in the women's tournament. We already had a match between Mina Shirakawa and Athena, where Mina Shirakawa won that match. Persephone versus Hazuki will be happening this coming Saturday on Collision. We have the wild card versus Alex Windsor. The wild card looks like it might be Jamie Hayter. That is happening on Wednesday. And then Sky Blue and Sari seems like it will probably be happening next week.
Yeah, I kind of think Sari's going to beat Athena.
Oh, wow. Well, then who do you think is going to win the tournament then?
I mean, here's the thing, and here's the thing with a lot of these tournaments, especially when they include foreign talent. They do some weird stuff with these. Do you remember the that really cool women's international tournament that they did during the pandemic that had
Half the bracket in Japan and half in the US?
Yeah. And
That she had to lose in the Japan side, I believe.
And Rio won.
Yeah, Rio Mizunami, yeah. Oh yeah, no, it was that Shida was the world champion. So she wasn't in the tournament. But she did like tag matches in Japan during the tournament. Rio Mizunami won the Japan half. She then beat whoever won the US half of the bracket. I can't remember who that was.
Yeah, she won the tournament.
Yeah, then she won the tournament, faced Shida on a pay-per-view.
Yeah. So to me, it's not unheard of that they're gonna like throw a relatively unknown person to the AEW audience in there. And Suri, I think, in general, is a much bigger name than Ryo Mizunami ever was.
Yes.
And
I
I
think
don't know. I feel like they would. I could see them wanting to do like Suri versus Tekla.
I could see that.
I
I could see just based off how they've been trying to use Percept. They just used her own commentary this past week during the Hazuki match.
hmm
She is a pretty good talker.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Suri versus or Persephone make a lot of sense. I don't know that I necessarily think Hazuki is going all the way though.
no, I think that Persephone's going to beat Hazuki in
That
that
feels
match.
like the correct answer.
I think
Yeah.
that it's possible that Persephone wins that side of the bracket, and then it's her versus Athena or her versus Saria as the final.
Yeah. To me, I think if we're talking Forbidden Door, there's not a whole lot of info on what's going on with Forbidden Door right now in terms of the directions I think that they're going to go with the interpromotion matches. So for that reason alone, I think it's either I think the winner is going to be either Persephone, Hazuki, or Suri. I really do.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it comes down to either Persephone or Suri,
Well,
or whoever the wild card is.
I think that that does it for us this week on Wrestle Watch. Was there anything else that you wanted to chat about?
I think we covered it all.
All right. Well, thank you everybody that has been watching along with us. And if you've been listening along, also thank you. We'll be back in a week or two with more Wrestle Watch content. Stay spicy, everybody.